That was good.
Hi.
Hi.
So, hi everyone. I believe now we're live. We're using, if anybody has been seeing my tests on the group, I've been running tests since last night, Nancy. So it's been like people have been watching me just do whatever on the computer. But we're here live with Dr. Nancy Grechko. I'm super excited for our conversation today. That she has so graciously wanted to share her journey about fertility challenges, IVF, and mental health, which is such an important topic when it comes to women. So today, for those who are joining us live, or if you're on the replay, welcome, thank you. This is the first time that I am streaming both Facebook and on Instagram. So for the Instagram followers, if you are listening or you're on the replay, I apologize if you cannot see both of us. It's only because we're trying to still work out kinks, but we will get there, and eventually you start being able to see everything. But at least you'll be able to hear it. So continue following us on Topic Thursdays. I'm so excited for today. So Dr. Nancy Grechko, why don't you go, can you start off introducing yourself and your practice? And let's go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Dr. Nancy Grechko. I'm a clinical psychologist based in Connecticut. I have an office in Vernon where I support a small caseload of clients in their trauma recovery and dealing with life stressors because life can be challenging. But the bulk of my work is actually supporting clinicians, mental health professionals in doing the work that they love. And that's through supervision, consultation, and training. And just the reason why we're meeting today is I also have an Instagram page where I've been very candid about my fertility challenges. And I think it's a very unique perspective to not only be a woman talking about fertility challenges and IVF, which I never thought in a million years I'd be somebody doing IVF, but also from the mental health perspective, like, hey, these are things to consider. This is what I want you to know. This is what I want you to be prepared for. And this is what I want you to know if you're supporting someone who's going through fertility challenges or IVF. So it feels like a very unique position to be in, to share, because once you start sharing, I mean, I've had people reach out to me, I went through that too, or this is so helpful. My sister's going through it and I don't know what to do. And, you realize so many people are doing IVF or struggling to conceive and to grow their families, and nobody's talking about it. But
Yeah,
sometimes I feel like that's what women do, right? Like
yeah,
we are so stoic, we put everything on our shoulders and we just carry on. We
yeah.
try to be strong for everyone, and inside we're struggling and we're not talking about it.
Yeah. And do you think that part of that has to do with the fact that maybe it's some type of stigma in society? Like everybody assumes that you're supposed to be fertile and have all these kids and babies, but that's not the case all the time.
That's not the case. And I don't know, what's going on, but infertility rates are rising. And of course, there are a million theories on why, which that's a topic for another day and outside my scope of practice. But it's like, people look at me and they're like, but you're healthy. Nancy, I see you at the gym. You eat really good food. You take care of yourself, and you can still struggle.
Right.
And then another, just a sidebar, people are like, oh, but you're like a healthy weight. Like I picture people with obesity struggling with fertility. Okay, first of all, that's
Mm,
fat shaming. That's not
right.
okay. But I mean, a lot of people are struggling, whether
Right.
it's a specific medical concern or unexplained infertility. And most people assume it's the woman's fault.
Right. Right.
Right?
Because everything is really the woman, right?
Of
It's
course. Like it's your fault you can't make babies. Like this is your one job.
right. Right. So that's
So yeah,
so
huge stigma, because like that's what women are supposed to do, is make
right.
babies. So if you can't get pregnant like that, what's wrong with you?
Exactly, exactly. So, do you mind sharing with us maybe the point where you and your husband found out that you guys could not have kids, and when you decided these routes, like what was that like for you guys?
Yeah, great question. It's a long road, but I'm gonna give you the tidbits here. So we have a son. We have a 4.5-year-old. We weren't trying. We were that couple who was just like,
Mhm.
oh, look at that. We're
Mhm.
not ready, but we're gonna do it. And you're never ready, right? But it was lovely and we adore him. And it's his fault we want to have another one, right? Like he's so cute, so stinking cute and so lovely. We wanted another child. So it was like 6 months, 1 year, and I was starting to get concerned. I knew it wasn't going to be easy because I had medical history, like medical concerns in my past that doctors told me, like, it's probably not going to be easy for you. And I said, no problem. Like, we'll figure it out.
Right.
So I spoke to my provider. He said, give it some time. And I'm like, listen, I'm over 35. Like, I know what the research says. Like, I think I need some help. So I found a new provider and she said, I'm going to give you a referral for the fertility clinic. So she actually took me seriously, which was great. But at the same time, I was like, oh, this
Wow.
means something's wrong now, right? Like I actually had
Right.
to sit with it because we'd been trying for over a year and I wanted to go the natural route. I
Mm-hmm.
went to a naturopath. I got my thyroid checked, my hormones. I was taking such good care of myself. I did Reiki. I did acupuncture. I even left a stressful job because I was like, you know what? This stress isn't good for me. Like I went all out for a
Right.
year and a half and still nothing.
Mm.
So I called the fertility clinic, Yukon Fertility, which was wonderful, and holding back tears as I'm saying, we've been trying for a long time and nothing's happening. And I felt so defeated.
Right.
Of course, we didn't get an appointment until 3 months later, but
Wow.
that was just something. And it's still, I'm hoping, I'm praying, I'm in denial. I was like, we could still get pregnant naturally before then. Who knows? We're going to be that couple, right? Because you always
Right.
think you're going to be that couple. Like you have your fertility appointment, and the day before you find out you're pregnant,
Right.
right? So
Right. We're letting go. We're no longer stressing each other. We're just gonna let it be.
don't think about it, don't stress
Mhm.
about it. People say all unhelpful advice, of course, but that's a whole other thing. And so I had more tests done, and it was Marianne, like everything. Nancy, your progesterone is low, your thyroid is off. They did this test that was really invasive. You have a cyst in your fallopian tube, like like
Wow.
that's literally blocking. You have endometriosis.
Wow.
All of these things. My husband perfectly fine. I was like, well, at least we have that. And I reflect on this all the time.
Mhm.
The whole journey up until that point was a roller coaster. Like,
Mhm.
we've all been through experiences in our lives. Like, everybody has their own trauma.
Right.
Nothing has brought me to my knees like this. I
Yeah.
mean, sobbing, like the ugly cries, like nothing has made me experience this, like infertility. So in terms of my mental health, it was the worst it could ever be.
Mm.
Um, which we can probably dive into a little bit more
Mhm.
later. But in terms of our journey and figuring this out, it was like, okay, I have a lot of work to do. So I had surgery. I was taking care of myself. I was taking progesterone and like Synthroid, like medications and
Mm.
stuff that I did not want to take, right? Like I'm a very holistic, natural person. Like I didn't want to take artificial and synthetic hormones. That
Right.
just didn't feel consistent with my values, but my value in expanding my family was more important.
Right. Yeah.
So we went through all that and still I'm hoping naturally it's going to happen. We so they did tell me that after your surgery, which I had in January, you should be able to get pregnant. Like your tubes are open now. You should be able to get pregnant. And I didn't. So after a
Mhm.
couple months they said, "Nancy, you really need to do IUI." And again, like sweating,
Right.
flushed, like it was like every point as if I'd never heard of it before. It's like, of
Right.
course I knew this was coming, but just denial is really powerful.
Yeah. What if for the people who may not know, what is IUI?
Oh, good question. So IUI is intrauterine insemination. So that's where they take the sperm and they take a little tube and they put it into your uterus. So it kind of like does the work for the sperm. That really wasn't our issue though. Like
Right.
his stuff was fine. It was
Right.
me and also staying pregnant because the suspicion was I was getting pregnant but wasn't staying pregnant. And I
Wow.
was like not implanting before I was having a miscarriage before I would even know I was pregnant kind of
Right.
thing. Um, so I said, okay, we're gonna take a couple months off. In June, we'll do IUI. I had a miscarriage in June, so we did conceive
Mhm.
naturally. So excited, and lost that pregnancy. And they said, IUI is not going to work for you. You need to do IVF. And I
Mm.
was just like, exactly. Like my eyes were just like, that's heavy. Like that
Yeah.
we can't even do IUI. We need to skip it.
Wow.
Um, on the one hand, I mean, it's absolutely terrifying because everybody does 3 to 5 cycles of IUI, right? Like, that's just
Right.
kinda standard before you do IVF. So for someone to say, "That's not even good enough for you, you need to do IVF," it was a lot, but also grateful that we didn't waste our time. That would have been 3 to
Right.
5 months wasted
Right.
on IUI and thousands of dollars, right?
Right. So that's interesting. So I never knew that. I just always hear IVF. I never heard of IUI
I
before, and I didn't realize that was actually a step before IVF.
Yep. So for some people, I mean, depending on your medical condition, like,
Hmm.
they told me back last October, "If you don't wanna use your tubes because you have this cyst, we can just do IVF." And I was like, I wanna use my tubes, and plus, like, we
Right.
gotta get the cyst out." So there are conditions where you can go straight to IVF or, like, you're not a good candidate for IUI, but usually people start with IUI, 3,
Right.
5 cycles, even for mothers, like, single mothers by choice, they
Hmm.
can usually, pick sperm and do IUI first before going to IVF. But yes, IVF is the one that we hear more often.
Okay. So so that was is that currently the choice and the route that you guys are going, the IVF route?
Yep, so we did IVF. I've chronicled all of it in my on my Instagram page.
Mhm.
So we did our cycle in August, and
Right.
it is intense.
Mm.
It's so intense. So, you know, mental health during infertility, it's rocky, it's a lot. And then with IVF, once you decide, IUI or IVF, whatever it's going to be, you're very hopeful, but
Right.
the hormones and the anticipation and the stress is also a lot. And Marianne, these appointments, like you go for blood work first thing in the morning. Like
Mhm.
depending on what your ovaries are doing, okay, you're coming back and doing this. Like you have to rearrange your entire schedule, childcare, you're gonna do ultrasounds, like everything is on their time, not on your time.
Right, right.
It's wild.
It's almost like that becomes the priority
Oh, yeah. It's like a
instead
full-time
of
job.
everything else.
Yep, I intentionally lightened up my schedule because I knew it
Mhm.
was gonna be a lot, and I didn't wanna be unreliable to my clients. I didn't do any trainings because I didn't wanna risk canceling
Right,
because I'm gonna prioritize
right.
this. It was a lot. It was a lot.
Mhm.
It completely takes over your life. Plus, the shots that you have to do.
Mm.
You do the shots 10 to 12 days. They have to be at night within a certain window of time.
Mhm.
When you do your trigger shot right before your egg retrieval, they give you the time. So they said, "Nancy, at 11 PM, you are doing your trigger shot." That's way past my bedtime.
Right.
So I had
9:30.
to go to bed, set an alarm, do my trigger shot, go back
Right.
to bed.
Wow.
It's
Wow. That's
wild.
intense.
It's so intense. And then your egg retrieval, a specific time. 5 days later, you do your transfer. 9 days after that, you do a pregnancy test. You do blood like and then if you're pregnant, it doesn't stop after that. You still do more blood work. It's a lot.
Because I can imagine after that, if you do become pregnant, it's making sure that things are okay at that point. So it's still a really sensitive time.
Absolutely, and that's why I mean, I know if I'm pregnant or not, like, I already
Mhm.
know, but I told everyone on Instagram, I'm not sharing because I need to time to process whether I'm pregnant or not, like, I still need time to process, and even if it's the good news of being pregnant, it's not as simple as getting a positive pregnancy test. You have to
Mhm.
make sure you stay pregnant. You're still
Right.
gonna have so much anxiety of, "Am I gonna stay pregnant?" And the shots don't stop. You take more shots at night. You get more blood work. Pray that you stay pregnant. It's a lot.
How long do you know how long you would have to take the shots after you did become pregnant?
So, it's like 2 different shots. So you take stimulating shots, for the 10 to 12 days to
Mhm.
stimulate your hormones. So typically, you stimulate like 1 egg to be fertilized.
Right.
With IVF, I mean, I had 14 eggs that were taken. So your
Mhm.
belly is distended and bloated, like, it's stimulating all this growth. You gain weight, you get puffy, all the hormones are intense.
Mm.
Right after your transfer, you start taking progesterone, and that's a shot right in the rump. It's intramuscular, it
Mm.
hurts.
Right.
And you take that for 3 months, the whole first trimester if you're pregnant, every
Wow.
night.
It's such a commitment. Such a commitment.
Huge commitment.
So how has the family really worked on that mental health piece? Because you do have a son. Does your son know what's going on as well? Did you share that with him?
I did. So he's been asking for a baby since he was a year and a half. And like he would lift up my shirt, be like, baby. And I'm like, no, no baby. Um, and he would say, when are we having our baby? When are we having our baby? And I would tell him that, we're trying. And then eventually it turned to, mom and daddy need some help. Mommy's body needs some help making a baby. And I'm going to see some doctors and they're going to give me some medicines to help. I did tell him that I was going to take shots. And he's like, oh my gosh, shots.
Mhm.
Uh, he went to an appointment with me because I had no childcare. So he saw the ultrasound. He saw me do my own shot because you also have shots in the morning at times. And, he expressed like, I don't like the shots. It makes me sad. But I kept him a part of everything, because I want him to know that all bodies are good bodies, but some bodies need help, whether it's, IVF, making a baby, or we talk about, wheelchair accessibility and, different abilities and different bodies and how they may need help. So he's been aware of all of this. I try to answer any questions that he has.
Mhm.
Even with the transfer, that was hard to explain. So he saw a
Yeah.
picture they give you a picture of the embryo.
Mhm.
And I said, it's kind of like a seed, because I also didn't want it to seem like a guarantee, mommy's going to have a baby now. So I said, we're putting the seed in. The doctors are helping to put the seed in, and we have to make sure it grows. We're waiting. And if it grows, then we can see if it grows into a baby. But the seed might not be ready. And, we might need to try again and get another seed. That's how I tried to explain it.
Mhm.
So I did my best. And then with my husband checking in, I mean, he's pretty stoic, of
Mhm.
course, and he tries to be strong for me, but we would share our frustrations and I try to connect to him and say, it's not just me, it's you
Mhm.
too. Like we both want this baby really badly. And again, I never thought that we would be doing IVF because we were kind of the people that, and there's no judgment. We were like, well, if we try for a long time and we can't do it, like maybe it's just not meant for us.
Mhm.
We want this baby so badly. Like we're like,
Mhm.
okay, what's our next step? Okay,
Yeah.
what's our next step? And I will say that if it weren't for our great insurance coverage,
Right.
IVF would have been an option for us.
Right. Because I know some insurances don't cover it, correct?
Right. So in the state of Connecticut, from what I'm told, they're supposed to cover at least 2 cycles of IVF.
Okay.
But what does that mean?
Right.
That doesn't mean it's going to be free. It means that they will pay a portion of it or pay it in some sense, but you have to pay your deductible or out-of-pocket expenses, it's a lot. I mean, there are people who have literally gone bankrupt because of IVF.
Right. Right. Because of the process and the determination to really want a child.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think a lot of people don't understand. So they're like, "Nancy, like, what are you going through all this for? Like,
Mhm.
just kind of accept it." But the way that I try to explain it is when you look around your house and you look around your dinner table and you just know someone's missing. Like
Mhm.
there's a part of your family that like there's someone missing here and you can't shake that. You can't let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. So for you guys as a family, even your husband, because I know that some men tend to be stoic and they have a hard time kind of expressing their feelings and showing that, and knowing that it's okay to be vulnerable, especially that as a woman, you don't want to feel like you're alone either in the process. How do
Mhm.
you keep that going, especially if there is like um maybe there is a pregnancy and then it doesn't work out? Like, how do you guys get over that grief or get through the grief? I don't want to say get over, get through the grief.
Yeah. It was I mean, our communication is so much better now because we're constantly checking in with each other. I mean, vulnerable conversations,
Mhm.
raw emotions. And that was really important to me because I can't hold it in because I can be that type of person that holds it in, holds it in, holds it in, and then
Mhm.
explodes, even though
Dr.
I know that's
Nancy.
not healthy. Uh-huh. And so I really challenged myself and pushed myself to tell him. But of course, there are things that he just doesn't get.
Yeah.
He doesn't get and I'm going to be candid because that's what this time is
Mhm.
for. The jealousy, the resentment of
Mhm.
women who can just get pregnant whenever they want, or women who don't have to try, or women. And again, this may sound judgmental, but I know every woman who has struggled with infertility has felt this way. when you are doing all the right things, you're taking your supplements, you're doing this, and someone who maybe doesn't take care of themselves is like, "Oh, I'm pregnant." It's like, oh,
Mm.
it's a punch in the gut.
Yeah.
I tried to share as much of that as I thought he could tolerate, and I know he could tolerate all of that, of course.
Mhm.
He would, listen to and support me in anything, but I really wanted to hear from other women.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to other women about it, and I didn't really have people until the very end. I met someone who was really supportive. But even after our pregnancy loss, I mean, I was a mess, of course,
Mhm.
and I allowed myself to be a mess. And at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, I have a child here who needs my love and attention. I
Yeah.
have to be present. So I had to use all my coping skills, all my resources to try to get through it. And some of that was with him, but a lot of that was just on my own. And I think for him, and I don't think he's alone, I think a lot of men, it's like, okay, this was good. It didn't work out. Like, what's our next step? Like, right,
Right.
he's moving on to the next step, and it took me a little longer.
Right. Well, I mean, you're the one, your body is taking all of this, right? It's kind of taking all the punches.
Yup.
So it's and that and trying to be mentally strong. And women typically take a lot of the punches when it comes to different things. Men definitely process things differently,
Mhm.
but our bodies take a toll. So through this, how do you take care of not only your mental health, but as well as your body and that self care?
So for me, a big thing is movement. Like if
Mm,
I don't move my body in some way, especially a more intense workout, by the third day, I feel it. Like I feel
mm,
cranky, I feel it in my body, like I need to move. And I love walks and I try to walk every day, but it's just not enough. Like I need to do something a little bit more intense, which was a huge challenge during IVF because you can't stress your body out.
gotcha.
Right? Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
putting your body in fight or flight.
right.
So, that's why I also created my guides on Instagram because my go-tos couldn't be it. I couldn't rely on intense exercise. My bike, my Peloton, like
Right.
my go-to. So, I had to really stretch myself to take care of my body. I'm not a lotion person.
Mhm,
Lotion every day, trying to self-soothe, stretching my body, reaching out to other people, audiobooks. So all for my mental health, but also for
mhm.
my physical health. You feel puffy, you feel bloated, the hormones are intense. Like I just tried to be really gentle with my body, which was hard, but I had to move my body.
Right. And does the outlet of sharing your journey, your story on Instagram help you as well? Kind of like you said, like you didn't have a network, you didn't know anybody, and is this for you helping you?
It is. And at first my goal was to share it for educational purposes.
Mhm,
And I didn't expect people to be nice about it, like,
mhm,
it was just educational stuff, but people were reaching out, "I'm wishing the best for you, I'm thinking about you," and it was so nice, like,
mhm.
I suppose I don't expect people to be nice and kind on the internet, you know? They were lovely, the people have been so great, so kind, and so supportive, and even just saying, like, "This is really helping me support, my family members," that means a lot to me, and that makes me feel like,
Mhm,
"Okay, there's a meaning, there's a purpose behind all of this. Because 'cause I'm a person who likes to find meaning in any challenge.
mhm. What is a message that you can give to any woman who might be struggling with fertility and maybe thinking about going this route?
You're not alone, your body is great. I know it's so hard to love right now, but your body is working so hard, and it's doing such a great job, and to give yourself a lot of love and compassion and grace, and talk about it. I mean,
Mhm,
talking about stuff really isn't my thing, like, just personally, I tend to be very private, but there's so much healing in talking about it. Because once you do, you hear, "Oh, yeah, me too. Oh, yeah, I
mhm,
went through that." And that's where we get connection and support. When we keep it to ourselves, it's tough. It's like your dirty little secret, and you start
mhm.
obsessing about it, and there's so much shame there, and this isn't a shameful process. This is life, and
Right.
it's more common than you think.
Yeah, and I think that's where, that's what's important is also understanding. So I have like this new campaign that's going to be coming out that's like redefining therapy, right? There's such a
Mhm.
stigma on mental health and therapy in itself, and we put such it's always been like this shame thing. And when it comes to infertility, um, there's this aspect of shame, but this is like you said, something that's maybe a little bit more common than what it ever used to be before. So how do we work on, and what can we do to help each other kind of destigmatize that?
That's a great question. I think women need to talk more. I really do, because even when you start trying, you may not talk about it because what if it doesn't work out right away? Like, just talk about it. This is life. There are people who want to support you and love you.
Mhm.
And I think by not talking about it, we're really not doing any favors. And that I think is the main concern, the main issue. Well, Susie got pregnant so quickly, or, Linda just had a miscarriage, so I don't want to talk about it, or, whatever it is. Talk about it, because even if our experiences aren't the same, we can support each other just by saying, this is hard. How can I be of support to you? What do you need? Because that stigma and, again, thinking that our bodies are broken or there's something wrong with us, it's just false. It's not true.
Yeah, and what I really, maybe more so like in the movies, you'll see the one person that wants to be ecstatic about their pregnancy, but they're trying to tiptoe around the person who are having difficulties.
Hmm.
And it's almost hard to balance that out, because you don't want to be disrespectful to the other person about what they might be going through, because like you said, sometimes it is that jealousy, right? You're doing
Hmm.
all the things right, you're eating better than me, but I might be able to get pregnant tomorrow, and it's a struggle
Hmm.
for and people who, some women, and that's so important. How do we not tiptoe around, like continuing to have that conversation, showing support? How do we balance that, I guess, in a sense where it's like, hey, just a reminder, I'm here to support you, and whatever endeavors you have, and whatever is coming for your life, coming with your life, right?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic question. I think it's on both sides.
Hmm.
So I know for a lot of women who struggle with infertility, so for me, I had to really be thoughtful about. And I never got to this point where I felt so strongly where I had to tell someone, like, if I knew someone was trying, I had to already accept, like, they're probably going to get pregnant before I am. Like,
Hmm.
I need to be prepared for that surprise pregnancy announcement. It's still going to hurt, but I need to prepare myself. But I know many women who have said, listen, I know you're trying. When you become pregnant, can you just tell me privately? Can we talk
Mm.
about it? Like, I don't want to see it on Facebook. I don't want to, like, it hurts. Can we talk about it? So it's up to us to communicate what we need and what we want in our journey in order to feel supported. I know for some women, they say, I am not going to any baby showers. I cannot handle it. It's too much.
Yeah.
Perfect boundary. That's, you do what
Take
you
the
need.
space, take it.
Absolutely. And on the other side, for women who are trying, but they still want to support, their friends who are struggling with their mental health or infertility or IVF, I think what's most important is saying, listen, when you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. When you don't want
Mhm.
to talk about it, let's not talk about it. Like, I'm here for whatever. When you want
Right.
a distraction, call me up. Let's go for a distraction. And you could even say, I'm also trying. How would you want me to talk to you about it?
Mhm.
Do you want to know? Do you not want to know? I don't expect anything from you. I know this is going to be hard either way. It's really just talking about it. Like, we try to be nice and we try to be good girls and we try to, like, mind read what everyone needs. Just talk about it.
Right. Be open, because if anything, it's like any type of relationship. The more open and honest you are, then you know what I need and what I'm looking for. But if you're trying to guess what I need and what I want, you're not going to know. You can't mind read. So the more that we talk about it with each other, the more I can say, okay, well, she said she didn't want an invitation to the baby shower. We'll do something separate, private, or not at all, whatever it might be. I respect that, right? It's
Not
respecting
personal.
what each other needs at that time and space. But
Mhm.
if you don't talk about it, you may not know.
Yeah. And it's going to cause a lot of miscommunications. A lot of could be hard feelings. I mean,
Hmm.
there could be friendships ruined because of this. Or, there's a woman at your baby shower struggling, having to leave early and trying to use all her skills just to manage. But either way, it's not going to feel right.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Is there any like ending notes that you might have for women themselves going through this at all, or even women who want to know how to better handle this situation? Like, how can, the more we talk about it, the more open we are, the more we can
Mhm.
learn about each other, which is why this conversation is so important. This is why I like to create this platform,
Mhm.
because there are things that women go through that we all need to know about and get better at doing.
Absolutely. And I mean, at this point, it may sound cliche, but you have to create a self care plan. Like, I knew it was going to be tough. I anticipated it, and it was still harder than I anticipated. So, I created a self care plan for preparing for IVF, the first 2 weeks of IVF, like all the different phases of IVF. And
Hmm.
it was still really hard. And I had to rely on all my skills, but the self care and the support is so important. Be open to trying new things. Be open to saying no to people. Guess what? You're going to disappoint people, and that's okay. No,
Hmm.
I cannot go to this party. No, I cannot take on this work project. I'm sorry, but I need to cancel plans. All of that is appropriate. All of that is part of your self care.
Ooh, so people pleasing on hold. I
Absolutely.
like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then after that, you start realizing the more you prioritize yourself and your needs, I'm wondering, even after that, like after the success, right? If you start implementing that more into your life now at that point, because you're like, you know what, this actually worked for us mentally. This is what I need too. Is like we talk about that as well.
I think that would be necessary because, I mean, if you're successful in the first shot, right? So the first round of IVF, if you're successful, okay, now you're pregnant, you're going to be anxious. Like, there's just no doubt about it. You're going to be anxious. You want to stay pregnant, and you're probably going to be a little sick. So you need to take care of yourself. And if you're not successful that first round, well, guess what? You're going through that grief and preparing for the next round. So those boundaries remain in place. That self care remains in place.
So important, support. Thank you so much, and I look forward to continue following you on your journey and sharing your story. Can For the audience again, can you let them know where to find you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram. It's Dr. Nancy Grechko, NancyGrechko. I'm a psychologist sharing mental health, trauma education, and information, as well as my IVF journey and challenges with infertility. And I'd love to see people there.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey and your story with us. Again, I think it's so important for women out there to know, because there are, we have friends. I have another friend that had to go through the treatments as well, and I know it's a tough road. So I want to know what I have to do to be mindful of that, when women are struggling with infertility as well. So I think it's a great conversation starter, and I hope that we as women, especially on the platform, continue having these conversations. So thank you again for coming on. Thank you everyone today, for joining in. And if you did not get to join in our live, then hit the replay button so that you can hear the story that Dr. Nancy has to share. Follow her and her journey. And Dr. Nancy, thank you again, and we wish you much
Welcome.
success.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.